Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Guys, while I was watching that World War II video, I noticed that Romania were in the side of the Axis, but at some point they switched sides to the Allies. So I'd like to know why that happened and what may have been the cause of it. And by the way, this was a video suggestion via a donation. I really appreciate that person who sends me that little donation. Every little donation helps me out to keep the lights on, so I really appreciate it. I fully appreciate it. Without wasting any more time, let's get right into this video.
In August 1944, the Axis forces were on the defensive. In the west, a new front was created in June after D-Day. Germans were fighting in central, in northern Italy, and in east, the Soviets were on a huge offensive on a gigantic front line. Germany was in a very bad situation. But a new blow is about to happen on the date of 23rd of August 1944. At that date, King Michael of Romania joined with conspirators and opposition politicians in an attempt to arrest the head of the government, Marshal John Antonescu. The coup was successful. The king removed the government and the weapons were turned against Germany.
Okay. That was because of a coup. I was thinking that it was the present leadership, the leadership that joined the Axis that actually changed sides. So it was actually due to a coup. So that means it was different leadership. No wonder. That makes sense.
Why did this happen? For you to better understand the situation of Romania in the Second World War, firstly we have to go 132 years back in time. We are in 1812. In the aftermath of the Russo-Turkish War, which happened between 1806 and 1812, the eastern parts of the Principality of Moldova, known as Bessarabia, were ceded to Imperial Russia. In 1859, Moldova united with Wallachia in what will become Romania after their War of Independence. In 1917, in the wake of Russian Revolution, the area constituted itself as the Moldavian Democratic Republic, an autonomous republic part of a proposed federative Russian state. Bolshevik agitation in late 1917 and early 1918 resulted in the intervention of the Romanian army to pacify the region. Soon after, the Parliamentary Assembly declared independence, and then the union with the Kingdom of Romania. The Great War led to the achievement of the long-standing goal, and that was the creation of Greater Romania, a national state that would incorporate all ethnic Romanians, which were divided for centuries. However, these new territories also included significant Hungarian, German, Russian, and Ukrainian minorities. Thus, the relations with Hungary and with the new authoritarian regime of the East weren't so good. In the first years of the interwar period, the situation was very good. The economy grew substantially, and Romania found itself as a major actor of Southeast Europe. King Ferdinand, who unified the country after the Great War, died in 1927. And after his death, an era of political instability is about to start. Carol, who will become Carol II, was the eldest son of Ferdinand I and became crown prince upon the death of his grand uncle, King Carol I in 1914. His life was marked by numerous scandals, among them marriages to Zizi Lambrino in 1918, and then to Princess Helen of Greece and Denmark in 1921.
What was wrong with the women that he married? I mean, from what he's mentioning here. Okay, maybe he will mention it.
Then he had continued affairs with Magda Lupescu, and this obliged him to renounce his succession rights in 1925 and leave the country.
Okay.
King Ferdinand died in 1927, and Carol's 5-year-old son ascended the throne as Michael I. Because Michael was still a minor, a regency council was instituted. Carol then returned to Romania in 1930 and replaced his son and the regency that had been in place. His reign was marked by political turmoil, huge instability, and in final, evolved into a personal dictatorship beginning in 1938. Due to the political situation of Europe at the time, combined with its internal struggles and its geographic position, Romania found itself in a very delicate posture. The war was on the horizon, and the only guarantee of Romania's integrity was France and Great Britain. On the 21st of June, 1940, France signed an armistice with Germany, and Great Britain focused on its defense. Romania was alone. In the summer of
Okay.
1940, a series of territorial disputes.
I mean, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. Can you really blame them for joining the Axis at that point? I mean, France was taken over. The British were just interested in protecting themselves at that point in time. So that actually makes a lot of sense.
Disputes were diplomatically resolved unfavorably to Romania, resulting in the loss of most of the territory gained in the wake of World War I. On June 26, 1940, at 2200, Soviet People's Commissar Molotov presented an ultimatum to evacuate Bessarabia and North Bukovina. The king communicated his wish to stand against the Soviet Union, but was under the pressure of Germany and Italy. Carol accepted. And then again, under these pressures, Romania lost northern Transylvania and southern Dobruja. This caused the exile of Carol II in 1940 and the installation of a new dictatorship government under Marshal John Antonescu. Carol was succeeded by his son Michael, who was only 18 at the time. Although the young king was formally the supreme head of the army and had full powers, in reality he was forced to remain just a figure, being considered by the head of the government as just an unexperienced child. The new government collaborated with Germany and joined the Axis in November 1940. The new goal of the state was to regain some, if not all, of the lost territories. In 1941, Germany and its allies prepared for the invasion of the Soviet Union. In June 1941, the offensive began. After a short time, Bessarabia and the northern Bukovina were fully reincorporated into the Romanian state. And initially, the Romanian army wanted to stop there. The goal was reached, and Antonescu hoped to regain the northern Transylvania territory by diplomatic means. Germany persuaded Antonescu in August 1941 to also take control of the Transnistrian territory as a substitute for northern Transylvania. Also, more discussions were promised on this matter, if Romania was to continue the struggle in the east. More and more divisions were sent to fight for what a country study by the U.S. Federal Research Division of the Library of Congress attributes as a morbid competition with Hungary in hopes of regaining northern Transylvania. As a member of the Axis, Romania joined the invasion of the Soviet Union on the 22nd of June, 1941, providing equipment and oil to Germany, as well as committing more troops to the Eastern Front than all the other allies of Germany combined. Romanian forces played a large role during the fighting in Ukraine, Bessarabia, Stalingrad, and elsewhere. According to historian and author Mark Axworthy, the Second Axis Army in Europe arguably belonged to Romania, though this is disputed, since many would agree that this position goes to the Italian army. In February 1943, with a decisive Soviet counteroffensive at Stalingrad, it was growing clear that the tide of war was turning against Axis powers. In August 1944, Romania was fighting on its own territory. The situation was critical. In order to not wage war on his own territory, King Michael considered to change the government. On the 20th and 21st of August, some meetings were held with the political leaders and army officers in order to establish a plan to get Romania out of the war against the Soviets. On August 23rd, John Antonescu instructed the king to request a hearing at 4 p.m. In the discussion that followed with the king and lasted over an hour, the marshal presented in detail the situation on the front line. When the king asked him to get out of the war and sign an armistice with the Allies and Soviet Union, Marshal Antonescu replied that he would end the armistice with the approval of Germany and with some guarantees. He also said that he did not object in principle to the exit from the war. His own government tried to obtain favorable terms for an eventual armistice with the Soviets through Stockholm for some time, but he has to refuse it, arguing with the difficult conditions of armistice in relation to the Soviet Union, which annexed Bessarabia and northern Bukovina. By signing an unconditional surrender, these territories would probably be lost, and Romania would have been occupied by communist forces in the end. Also, he argued about the turning of arms against Germany, not seeing betraying your old ally as an honorable thing to do for a military officer. Then the king was forced to use the password. If things are so, then we have nothing left to do. Hearing the words, a colonel which was waiting outside for the signal entered the room with a group of 4 soldiers who arrested the marshal. At 2200 in a radio message, the king announced the change of government and the new path that Romania was on. Formal Allied recognition of the de facto change of orientation of Romania in the war came on the 12th of September 1944. Until this date, Soviet troops started moving into Romania. 140,000 Romanian troops were taken as prisoner of war.
Wow,
About 130,000 Romanian POWs were transported to the Soviet Union, where many perished in prison camps. Romania fought...
Damn, this is one part of this story of this World War II that is so so one-sided. You know, while growing up, everybody, even most people that didn't really know the full story, would always assume that, you know, Germans were the only ones that were putting people in camps and torturing people, and people were dying and all that stuff. The Allies also did the same thing. I actually stumbled on 2 videos that showed that the Americans also did things like that. I don't want to cover World War II anymore for the time being. I'll probably cover it in a future period, not now. I think I have to start checking out some other videos, but I've saved those videos for now. There are videos that show that allies, that is the United States, the British, and some of those other countries, also participated in this you know, prison camps, torture, the R word, and things like that. But you know, when you grow up, you only be hearing about the German part of things, how the Germans were doing it. And I'm not sitting down here trying to pick sides. I'm just sitting down here in a logical sense, in an objective sense, and looking at it that at the end of the day, in wars, nobody's really innocent. Nobody is really innocent. The only person that you could really say that is fully innocent is maybe civilians, you know, but the leaders, the soldiers, none of them are really innocent. Let's be real here. None of them are really innocent in any war whatsoever. And I'm not saying that all soldiers indulge in things like this, in torture or in the R word. That's not what I'm saying, but from what I've learned in history, during fighting period, during wars, people do a lot of horrible things because at that point in time, your hormones are so high, adrenaline is so high. The only thing you're just thinking about is violence, violence, violence. So morals is out of the window at that point in time. And it's easy for people like me to sit down here and judge the morality of some of these soldiers. But I can't imagine being in a situation where I'm fighting, gotten so, I don't know how I would be at that point. Because at that point in time, you're already on the brink of death. So that brings a different perspective to life when you're like that. You get what I'm saying? So I'm not really surprised by this though. I'm not really surprised by what is just said in this video right now.
Against Axis forces until the end of the war, gaining the lost territories in the West at the peace conference. The presence of the Soviet army on the territory forced the communists to come to power. On November 19, 1946, the first post-war parliamentary elections are held, although the real results indicated the decisive victory of the Peasant National Party. But the probably falsified official results presented the victory with over 70% of the bloc of democratic parties led by communists. The king was again a little more than a figurehead under the communist regime, and on December 30th, 1947, he was finally forced to abdicate and leave the country. The new regime was installed with full powers as a puppet of the Soviet Union. What Antonescu feared the most just happened. Michael remained in exile for much of his life. After almost 42 years, the Romanian Revolution happened. The communism was overthrown. But on the new democratic elections, former communists were elected in key positions. At the Christmas of 1990, having a
I'm a Democrat now.
legal passport, the former king came back to visit. Fearing a possible massive support for the former king, he was stopped by a police dam, driven back to the airport and forced to leave the country. 1992, he made a new short visit and hundreds of thousands of people came back to see him. In 1994, he was again refused to enter the country, and finally in 1997, Michael gained back his citizenship. On December 5th, 2017, King Michael I died at 96 years old. The decision of the 23rd of August 1944 is considered by many an act of salvation of Romania. By others, it is seen as an act of betrayal. But at that time, Romania was in a very delicate situation. Joining the Axis and then switching sides was based on its desire to survive against two totalitarian regimes.
That's true.
If you want to...
I mean, by what is being said there, like you can hear, by Romania made these decisions both by joining the Axis and switching to the Allies. It was just a way to survive against two keyword totalitarian regimes. So even though the Soviets were on the Allies and Germany, were on the Axis, both of them were still kind of totalitarian. Like you either join or you are our enemy. So at that point in time, you have to make a decision for a smaller country that you may be. And it's still happening today. It's still happening today. In the war in Ukraine, any country that wants to stay neutral these days, people are almost making the accusation that they're supporting Russia. Despite the fact that they just want to stay neutral. They don't really want to get involved in terms of like maybe their citizens dying in war or wasting money or whatever reasons that they may have, or just maybe basic diplomatic reasons. People are calling them out for being, phony or being, supporting Russia and all that. So at the end of the day, everybody's kind of totalitarian. Everybody, because it's almost always, do you support me or not? If you don't support me, then that means I'm supporting the other guy. You can never be that, oh, okay, I don't feel like doing this. It seems like the only country that is allowed to be neutral is Switzerland. I don't know why. For some reason, they're the only country that can be neutral and nobody demonizes them. Nobody looks at them like, like, why are you not supporting? If Switzerland even makes any comments like supporting a particular cause, that like cheered, oh, finally Switzerland is supporting someone, like how it happened with the Ukraine war. So I don't know how this thing is. Sometimes this diplomatic stuff, this war stuff, sometimes is actually very, very funny when you look at it in a very cynical way. But at the end of the day, there are very, very few heroes in any of these things. Very, very few heroes in any of these situations, to be honest with you. That's just how I look at things. Thank you guys for watching. I really enjoyed this video, and shout out to the person that recommended this video to me and giving me that little donation. It helps me out, and I really, really appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel, hit the like button to get this video out to more people. I really appreciate it as well. See you on the next one. Peace.